Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and a new Diablo 4 video. Today with Season 1 nicely underway, I wanted to talk about builds. Each class in pre-season had an arguably best build overall, with some classes like Rogue having, a good variety of competitive builds, others having a lot less. Well, now we've had a chance to play around with endgame in Season 1, get our top roll hearts, the new balance and so on. How are things stacking up? What are the new best builds for each class? Well, I can certainly tell you that there's one heart that's going to be mentioned a lot today. Probably know which one I mean. I'm talking about that raffle heart, the Barber, which allows you to build up damage for a few seconds and then pop it, leading to stupid numbers. Every class and every build is considering if they should use this heart, and the answer is usually yes, so much so that I really expected the campfire talk about 1.1.1 to mention that, to say, hey, we're gonna fix that. They didn't talk about it, they never mentioned it. So, for the first section of Season 1, it seems like the Barber Heart is going to remain insane and be core to like every build. However, it's very true that, both Sorcerer and Barbarian are going to have a lot of changes coming. There were just slides after slides of changes to mechanics and their aspects, even uniques and all that. But interestingly and unexpectedly, there's also stuff for the other three classes. Things are going to change. 1.1.1 is coming, but it's not for another 2 weeks. So, maybe that Barber change, that nerf will come. But in the meantime, what are the best builds for each class right now? We begin with Druid, which actually comes down to similar options as preseason: Tornado Wolf or Pulverized Bear. Now, Cotton believes Tornado Wolf to simply be the best option, and for good reasons. Firstly, they fixed the tornado-seeking legendary aspect, because, sometimes before that patch, tornadoes that were homing in on enemies would, for some reason, do no damage. Well, now that stopped happening, it actually worked. Kind of funny that survived in game for so long, but hey, it's fixed and it's good for this build, obviously. Second to that is they fixed one of the spirit boons, the Avian Wrath, that big one, which was weirdly broken. Somehow the effect was providing 30% critical strike damage as an additive, compared to it being what it says it should be, a multiplier, which is obviously a lot stronger in the late game. That's a major damage increase, genuinely massive for the late game, and good for Druids as a whole, but particularly this build as we'll get to. Third, you have that new heart, Inexorable Force, which is just so good. It pulls enemies on top of you from far, which is a core mechanic to many of the best builds in Diablo 4. Simply being able to group up enemies in just a moment is massive for your speed clear potential, which is tied to how quickly your class levels, which is really important. And with Tornado Wolf being just so fast and so good for speed clear compared to other builds, this just makes it even better at exactly that. You're able to stack up the tornadoes much better, especially with the homing tornadoes actually working. Now they'll group up for you. It's just this big wombo combo, which all ties into that all-important heart we're going to talk about a lot, the Barber. Those 2 to 4 seconds of build up then pop works amazing here. You essentially just Grizzly Rage for that 10% times critical damage, which obviously grows in power. You pull in all the enemies thanks to that force pull. You smash them with a tornado, which then scales up the crit multiplier. You're given the time thanks to Barber to build up damage further, giving you the ability to stack up the crit more and more, giving you more chance for lucky hits and procs, including, your key passive, Earthen Might, working super well in this context. So you're just able to benefit from Barber super well with the Tornado Wolf, building up all that damage in a really quick period, really efficiently, flying through the dungeon, and it works great in single target, on elites, massive packs, whatever. The speed potential is so high. Therefore, we just think that Tornado Wolf is the best option overall right now. Moving on, let's talk about my main class quickly, the Necromancer. Because look, it's Bone Spear. Alright, let's just get it over with. Bone Spear, despite the pretty hefty nerfs, in fact it was the most nerf build for Necromancer in the 1.1 patch, it's still the best build overall for Necro. It remains insane from the get-go. Thanks to leveling with its fast power build-up, it remains insane in the endgame thanks to the ridiculously high damage numbers you can reach. It never has issues, especially in Season 1, because they put the top tier resource generator for Bone Spear, the aspect of exposed flesh, as a season journey reward at stage 2 or chapter 2, and that brings it to the codex, so you can solve any resource problems of the build really early on. While other builds like Minions or Bloodlance are much more promising now, it is just a fact that Bone Spear is nuts. There's two versions, if you could call it that. There's the Raffle Heart choice, basically, of Barber, of course, or the Great Feast Necromancer unique. Barber allows you to build up so much damage because of our high DPS potential, the high burst potential, that you can stack up to very silly numbers. There's that well-known clip of the first player to level 100 who took it to Uber Lilith, casually hitting her with like a 250 million hit in one hit, like god damn. Meanwhile, the Great Feast provides you with a more consistent burst potential potential, giving you that outrageous 95% times increase to all damage, but there's a cost in that you have a drain of 5 essence per second. That sounds worse than it actually is though, because your max essence becomes so high that 5 per second is really little. And we also have incredible ways to generate essence. Very quickly, that drain means very little. I think ultimately, Barber is way better at single target, while Great Feast is a more consistent general clear option. In theory, if Barber didn't just pop everything anyway. So yeah, Barber is insane. Surely I think it's going to get hit by the nerf stick. And by comparison, I just don't think Great Feast is going to be nerfed. I made my build set up for Great Feast because I know it's going to stick around, where Barber really deserves the tone down. Next up, let's talk Sorcerer, which to be fair is going to change a lot in 1.1.1 from the looks of things. It had so many slides. Josh was gushing over all the changes. It is going to be a very different class, it would seem, in 2 weeks. But you know, before then, how are things now? That's what we're going to talk about. Currently, there are 2 options. Are you going Ice Shards or Arc Lash? In both cases, don't worry, you're definitely using Barber because everyone's using that damn heart. The answer is probably Ice Shards, as you'd expect. But Josh here is running Arc Lash, that version, and swears by it. Essentially melee shock crit or ranged ice crit, featuring Barber as the core. Both have their pros and cons. For example, obviously, melee being melee is a negative. You'll have to be close to your enemies, which exposes you to a bit more damage than being ranged, which is obviously an issue for Sorcerer currently. Where there does seem to be a ton of damage reduction improvements and changes coming for Sorcerer, that is currently not the case. And that's the biggest issue with the Arc Lash version then. As fun and as good as it is, more people are likely going to swear by or go for Ice Shards for now, just because playing at range means you can avoid more damage. But the major perk of Arc Lash is that it seems to come online smoother sooner, which is important for the general grind process and progress to full build. Josh has his version here that's so fast, like a consistent 150 to 200% move speed bonus, that means he's flying through the dungeon. Even though my Necromancer arguably hits way harder than his current Sorcerer, if we were in a group, he'd be killing everything before I ever even saw it, because I'm a Necromancer, I'm slow, and he is so fast. Thanks to unstable currents in both burst and AoE potential, it actually kind of works better than Ice Shards with Barber, creating a really satisfying gameplay loop. We think that it's fairly close between Barber Ice Shards and Barber Arc Lash, and while Josh prefers Arc Lash at this current stage of Season 1, we both agree that Ice Shards is again going to appeal to more players generally, be a safer pick, and probably most people would say is the best build. It is going to be very interesting though to see how things change in patch 1.1.1, and there seems to be a lot of build variety potential coming for Sorcerer at last. On the other hand, we have the next class to speak on, which is Barbarian, which is also a major focus for 1.1.1 and beyond. It's interesting because Sorcerer had so many pages referring to its upcoming changes in that campfire chat, and then Barbarian, the other one that we were expecting to get so many changes for, had like half. And unfortunately, the reactions I'm seeing from Barbarian players so far is that they seem a bit underwhelmed, certainly compared to the stuff that's coming to Sorcerer. Time will tell though, you know, how big are these changes really going to feel, and hopefully based on what they've been saying is that they're revealing the patch notes to us a good week before the patch hits, right? Giving us time to give them feedback, maybe they'll make further changes. So there is hope, but Barbarian is in a weird state and it needs love. We want to see that 1.1.1 do enough. Anyway, Barbarians are using Barber, you know it, everyone is. And the fight between best builds remains the same. Are you playing Hammer of the Ancients or are you playing Whirlwind? Now thanks to Barber, you're always going to be able to generate hilarious hits via the stacking damage. And that is obviously insane with Hammer of Ancients because you're able to get the biggest numbers there, and then Barber allows for even bigger spikes. But you know, the same can be said for Whirlwind. In fact, Barber will help you stack up better single target bursts, which is an issue for the Whirlwind build. So obviously it's really good there. It's really close. It's very hard to say which is better between the two. Hammer, for example, has a lot more issues mob clearing in a smooth, consistent way compared to the easy mode that is Whirlwind spam. You kind of bring one or the other for different reasons, but now they're more homogenized and competitive in both sides. One thing that's funny is looking at the Barbarians, looking at say their D4 armory information, what they're wearing currently, is that they're often not actually using any Barbarian unique hearts. They're all just wearing universals, like yeah, they're all using Barber, right? But we're seeing things like Tempting Fate for the higher crit damage, or Dark Dance, trading a bit of health instead of Fury for even more damage regularly, and they're just not using like the Barbarian hearts. So obviously it's a big question of like, will they improve those in 1.1.1? Hopefully. Right now, I think we're in a current state where everyone's leveling and trying to get to level 100, and I would think that Whirlwind is going to be a smoother process for that, so that's what I would argue. But what do you guys think in this case? For me, I feel like it's so close that it's hard to say. Finally, we have the Rogue, which is getting some really small updates in 1.1.1 of all the classes, like the minor changes. Having said that, this is already like the most balanced class by far. It's so obvious when you look at all the different builds and how close they are in power. It's very impressive. But you know what I'm about to say. The best Rogue builds are using Barber because it's strong as hell. I was expecting going in that the best builds would be tied to their unique Raffle Heart they want to do with Imbuement, the Vile Apothecary, which gives all Imbuement effects at half their power regularly for free. Now, I'm not saying Apothecary isn't good. It's incredible, very competitive. It's clearly the best choice if Barb wasn't so silly, and when that gets toned down, it probably will be. But the thing is, Rogue is so fast, not just in mobility, but its ability to burst and build up damage to pop with Barber. Whether you're using Imbuments or not, though yeah, those builds are fantastic, and with Barber in particular, really good. As you'd expect, Twisting Blades is an ideal version for this due to its ability to lower cooldowns as part of its passive enhancement, but also because Twisting Blades as an attack has this sort of initial stab, and then after a moment the blades come out, dealing damage on their way back to you. So normally you jump to a target and you hit them with multiple Twisting Blades, then move away or dash away, teleport away into position to drag the blades through the mob pack or whatever. That timing works really well with, say, Barber's 2 to 4 second window of build up for the pop. Jumping in, stabbing a few times, jumping out, Barber pops with Twisting Blades coming back to you. It works really well. But it has to be mentioned that both the Penetrating Shot and Barrage builds are doing so well in Season 1. It was an Imbuement Penetrating Shot build that made it to level 100 first as Rogue's class overall. Further, Barrage is working super well with Vile Apothecary in particular. Using those multiple Imbuments, it looks really fun, really strong, and really easy to play. So yeah, Rogue is just killing it in terms of balance and options in Season 1, even with the context of Barber. If I had to pick one build though, I'd say Imbuement Twisting Blades using Barber over Apothecary, but it is very close. But there you have it, our look at each class and its current best builds. I hope this was interesting and maybe even useful, but everything might change soon with 1.1.1 affecting more than just Sorcerer and Barbarian like we thought. Soon we'll have that full patch notes to look through, really gauge what's coming, maybe give feedback. But until then, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.